This is the Harry Loomis Show. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Harry Loomis Show. Today is Wednesday this week, July 31st, and we are one day removed from the MLB trade deadline hitting. I have not covered hardly any baseball here on the Harry Loomis Show, but that's going to change today. The team we're going to talk about, if you know me, you know who's going to be. It's the St. Louis Cardinals. I've been happy with the Cardinals' last two deadlines. In 2022, when they won the division, went 93-69, they bought. They needed starting pitching, and they got guys like Jose Quintana and Jordan Montgomery, who were great for them. It didn't turn into postseason success. Why they pulled Quintana in game one, I still don't know. But they got really good value in those two trades. They were very good pieces for the Cardinals. 2023, complete opposite, disaster of a season. They need to sell, and they did a good job. I was happy with the returns on guys like Jordan Hicks, Jordan Montgomery, Jack Flaherty, and Paul DeYoung. Really reestablished the farm system, getting guys like Thomas Agassi. It was a bad year. They did what they needed to do. This year, it's a mixed bag. The Cardinals are a couple games above 500. They're not in a playoff spot. They're a couple games out from a wild card, but this team doesn't really give any impression that they're going to compete for anything in October if they get to the dance, but they were pretty savvy with their moves. What they needed was another right-handed arm in the bullpen, a pretty solid starter, and another bat on the bench. Mission accomplished. Three-team trade with the Dodgers and the White Sox. The Cardinals send Tommy Edman, one of my favorite players, to the Dodgers. And from the White Sox, they bring in Eric Fetty and former Cardinal Tommy Pham. Tommy Pham made his, I don't want to say Cardinals debut, but he made his return to the Cardinals last night. First at bat, he had a grand slam. That was such an awesome moment. I don't think the Cardinals have had a moment that exciting, that big, that I can remember since Albert Pujols hit home run 695, his last at bat against the Cubs, a Sunday, bottom of the eighth inning to win a game at Busch Stadium. That was a really special moment. This one, I mean, it's storybook baseball. How can you not be happy about a hit like that, no matter how you feel about Tommy Pham? But Eric Fetty is a good get for the Cardinals. Looking at his stats here, he's a 31, so not a young guy, but younger than some of the options the Cardinals had. Remember the three guys they brought in this year, Gray, all over the age of 35. So Fetty is going to bring down the average age of the rotation by a little bit. And he was in Korea in 2023, came back this year. He had played 6 years with the Nationals and had a 77 ERA plus, so not a very good stint with the Nationals. Was kind of up and down, big leagues and minors. This year in Chicago, he's been a revelation. 21 starts, 7 wins, 4 losses, which is pretty big considering the White Sox are one of the worst teams they're on pace to be one of the worst teams in MLB history. He's got over 25% of their wins, a 3.11 ERA, a 1.35 ERA plus. AJ Pierzynski, notably longtime White Sox, actually former Cardinal, was livid about the return. The fact that the Cardinals really didn't give up anything to the White Sox, getting their best starter. I can't say I blame him. It's a really good deal for the Cardinals in terms of what they gave up and what they're bringing in. Fantastic value. John Mozeliak, honestly, I don't think he gets quite enough credit for some of his in-season trades. He's had a couple home runs, and this has the potential to really hit if Fetty works out. Fans off to a good start. And I was listening to Trevor Plouffe and Chris Rose's show this morning through John Boy Media, and Plouffe had a really good point about Tommy Pham just being one of those guys that you bring in, and he just seems like he's a winning player. And he's moved around quite a lot in his career. He's kind of a volatile player. There's a lot of people that don't like him. He's obviously got a big fire to him. But you look at some of the places he's been. He was on the Diamondbacks last year when they made the World Series. He was on Tampa Bay for a while when they had some really good years. He was on San Diego when they started to emerge in 2020. Cincinnati was building a little bit when he was there in 2022. And obviously he had some really good moments with the Cardinals early on in his career. He's 36 years old, but he brings a fire that the Cardinals honestly don't have right now. You saw after the reaction with the Grand Slam, the awesome picture that's currently the Cardinals avatar on Twitter. You saw the reaction with Paul Goldschmidt. When's the last time you saw any kind of fire like that out of Paul Goldschmidt? It's been a brutal year for him. Last year was a brutal year for the Cardinals as a whole. Seeing that fire come back into that dugout is something that's desperately needed. And if Pham is the guy to do that, sign me up. I am all in on that. The other trade that the Cardinals made, it's a frustrating one just because of what could have been, but the Cardinals had to make a move for this to give up this player. Dylan Carlson has been traded to the Tampa Bay Rays. Carlson, I'm trying to think of a bigger disappointment in recent Cardinals history. I was talking with some people. I was talking with my dad. He threw out the name Colby Rasmus, and I think that is the perfect comparison because you look Dylan Carlson, you look at his size, you look at the player. He is a switch hitting 6'2", 200-pound outfielder, throws left-handed. He's got a pretty good arm. He's a pretty good fielder. He's had some really good power numbers in his career. There is no reason why this guy can't be a bona fide star outfielder in Major League Baseball, but things just have not worked out for him in his career. He really showed some promise in 2021 as a rookie. 149 games played, 18 homers, 65 RBIs, 780 OPS, 115 OPS plus, third in Rookie of the Year voting. And it's just been downhill ever since then. His OPS plus is, which for those that don't know what OPS plus is, it's league and park adjusted, so 100 is average, the higher the better. It's just dropped off ever since 2022, 99 OPS plus, 2023, 78 OPS plus, and this year in 138 plate appearances, a 47 ERA plus. He doesn't have a home run this year. He's only got 5 extra base hits this year, hitting 198. This is, by all accounts, a guy that needs a change of scenery. He's got loads of talent. We saw it. There's a reason why he was such a highly touted prospect back in the day when he came up in 2020. I like Dylan Carlson, the player. I root for Dylan Carlson, the player. The fact that he's going to Tampa Bay, I will continue to root for him. I hate seeing guys that have the talent. And Carlson he didn't really make any brutal mistakes, especially off the field. You can't say he's a waste of talent or anything like that. It's just been injuries. It's just been not being able to put everything together. I want to see him find a way to put it together. If that happens at Tampa Bay, will it be kind of frustrating because of what happened with guys like Randy Arozarena specifically, Adolis Garcia, Lane Thomas a little bit in Washington? Yeah, it'll be frustrating. But Carlson, he deserves to live out his full potential. If that happens in Tampa Bay, more power to him. Who did the Cardinals get in return? They got right-handed relief pitcher Shawn Armstrong. Now, Shawn Armstrong, he is a pretty volatile player as well. He's been in the league since 2015. He's 33 years old. He's a guy whose good years are really good and whose bad years are really bad. There's really no middle ground for him. He kind of averages out career ERA plus, which is the same thing as OPS plus, but for pitchers, 102, so slightly above average. 2023, he was spectacular. 39 appearances, 6 starts. Remember, the Rays are one of the teams that use the opener more than anybody else. But 52 innings pitched, a 138 ERA, 299 ERA plus, 254 FIP. He had 9.3 strikeouts per 9. He was lights out for the Rays. This year, complete opposite. He's pitched 46 and 2/3 innings, 5.40 ERA, completely ballooned from the year before. His strikeouts per 9 are up, 9.6 strikeouts per 9, but his hits per 9 have ballooned to 10.8. He just cannot avoid giving up hits. And sometimes a change of scenery does it for a guy. Armstrong's been on 5 different teams in his career. He had his best years, 3 years with Cleveland, 3.53 ERA between 2015 and 2017, actually his first 3 years in the big leagues. So they're not exactly getting, hater in Shawn Armstrong, but they are getting another depth piece for the bullpen, which honestly is not always the worst thing in the world. With the injuries that the teams had, no one expected Andre Palante to be a regular in the rotation this year. No one expected Steven Matz not to be able to pitch this most of this year. No one expected Matt Liberatore to continue to have his development studded. Maybe it did. I didn't. I thought he was going to be a bullpen piece and was going to start to figure it out. He's had some good moments, but still not what we expected when we traded Arozarena for him. So Armstrong should fit the bill nicely. If I were giving the Cardinals trade deadline a grade, I would probably give it a B. Yes, they got good value in their trades. They got great value out of the White Sox. Edman hasn't pitched this year. Pham is a good guy to have on your team, and Eric Feddes was one of the best starters available at the deadline, and you have him for at least another year. And Carlson, you had to move him to fill a need with him and getting a bullpen arm is something. But at the same time, I don't feel like this is moving the needle for the Cardinals. Looking at where they're at right now, they are just, like I said, just outside of playoff spot. They are 55 and 52, dead on average. According to Baseball Reference, 11.6% chance to make the postseason. This might help them win a couple more games, and when it comes down to it in September, maybe that's enough to get into the playoffs. And we saw what happened with last year's playoffs. Only one division champion even made the CS. That was the Astros. The Rangers won the World Series. They were a wild card team. The Diamondbacks made the World Series. They were a wild card team. The Phillies lost in the NLCS in 7 to the Diamondbacks, and they were a wild card team. Now with 6 teams in the playoffs, 3 wild cards, it's kind of become a crapshoot. Teams haven't really figured it out. This being the 3rd year. So maybe wildcard could be the sweet spot. With the division winners getting time off, maybe you want to be in the wild card, keep playing, get that momentum going, and strike the good teams while you're hot. I can't subscribe to that yet. I want to know that this team is good, that this team is a serious contender. I want teams to be afraid to face the Cardinals come October if we're going to be in the dance. Right now, take the dance. Who's going to fear us? Look at the best teams of baseball. The Phillies are probably my pick to win the World Series. I picked them before the year. They're the best team in baseball right now. The Brewers look really good. They surprised me this year. I thought they were going to fall off a little bit, but they're continuing to lead the NL Central. The Dodgers obviously are the Dodgers. They don't fear a lot of teams, and they certainly aren't going to fear the Cardinals. The Braves are kind of trying to do what they did in 2021. They lost Acuna for the year. They brought in Jorge Soler. They've been just riddled with injuries, but this team always seems to find a way. The Cardinals just aren't on that level, and I don't think all credit to Eric Fedde, Tommy Pham, and Sean Armstrong. I don't think those are the guys that are going to get the Cardinals over that next tier into serious contenders. They could make the wild card. Good on them if they make it. But long term, is that the goal? Is that all you want to do? Do you just want to be a wild card team the next couple of years? This team, they showed all the promise in the world in 2022 with a retiring Pujols, with a retiring Molina, with Wainwright having 1 foot out the door, retiring in 2023. And it's just been a disaster ever since then. It doesn't make sense. But this team, not only did they improve marginally, not enough in my eyes, they also got older. Sean Armstrong, 33, like I said. Eric Fedde, 31. Tommy Pham is 36 years old. It's more of the same. The Cardinals seem like they're not willing to rely on younger players anymore because they've had such a hard time developing them. That's why Jordan Walker is currently struggling in the minor leagues when he was a top prospect in baseball in 2023. That's why Matt Liberatore isn't working out. That's why he just traded Dylan Carlson. It's not sustainable. I don't know what the thinking is, what the issue is, but they're subscribing to, we can't make younger players work, so we're going to try to do the best we can with older players. You might win a couple more games. Maybe you'll have that hard work and that grit. That's why you have Matt Carpenter being, honestly, not a bad contribution from him this year. But it's not going to get you to where you want to go. But if you want to look at who had the best trade deadlines, honestly, this deadline mostly favored sellers. There weren't a lot of high-profile players getting traded this year. Some of the bigger names, probably Eloy Jimenez going to the Orioles, Jazz Chisholm getting traded from the Marlins to the Yankees, and Jack Flaherty going from the Tigers to the Dodgers. And the Tigers didn't get as much as I expected for Flaherty. It sounded like there was a bidding war between teams like the Dodgers, the Yankees, and some other highly touted teams. But I think the biggest loser, maybe it's down to trade that hold on. I think one of the worst trades, is the Padres getting Tanner Scott and right-handed pitcher Brian Hoeing from the Marlins in exchange for 4 prospects. Now, Tanner Scott's a good pitcher. He's got a 1.18 ERA, 53 strikeouts, and 45 and 2/3 innings this year, and made the All-Star team. Good for him. He's having a great year with the Marlins. But they gave up the number 2 prospect, their number 4 prospect, their number 5 prospect, and their number 24 prospect. That is a haul and a half for the Marlins. But this is what the Padres do. There are no half measures with the Padres. That's why they went all in and got a guy like Juan Soto, who's now a Yankee. That's why they went all in and got a guy like Josh Hader, who's now an Astro. That's why they went all in and got a guy like Xander Bogaerts when they already had Fernando Tatis Jr. That's why they went all in on Manny Machado. That one worked out. Won't critique that one, but it's just more of the same. We've seen it from the Padres, honestly, since 2015. Remember when they brought in a bunch of guys like James Shields, Matt Kemp, Craig Kimbrell to that roster and trying to emerge and really become a powerhouse in the league? They had a disaster that year, didn't even make the playoffs. It's been a continuous cycle for the Padres. They're basically the Vegas Golden Knights of the MLB, except the Knights have been making the playoffs. They won a cup. The Padres have made the playoffs 3 times in this era and have one series win, well, not counting the wild card. They made it to the ALCS 1 time, and they got demolished by the Phillies in 2022. So credit to them for making it work, but what's the definition of insanity? That's my warning to the Padres. The other one that everyone was questioning just what they were doing, this happened July 29th. The Astros acquired Yusei Kikuchi from the Blue Jays for 3 prospects. Jake Bloss, who's the 9th-ranked prospect for the Astros, Will Wagner's number 13, and an infielder, Joey Fido. I hope I'm pronouncing that one right. Kikuchi's a good pitcher, but that's just way too much to give up for the Astros. They are trying to make this window last longer than it seems like it's going to. They could still make the ALCS. They've made it every year since 2017. Who knows how the AL is going to shake up, but this team always gets it done in the postseason. I'm not one to say whether or not that's going to continue this year, but it seems like when it finally ends for the Astros, they're just going to crater. Think of like the Tampa Bay Lightning. I'm using a lot of hockey comparisons, but the Lightning had this era. It's starting to wind down, but the Lightning have gotten creative with ways to keep it going. They traded Mikhail Sergachev to get a haul. They brought in a guy like Jake Gensel. They're trying to keep it going for as long as they can. Who knows how that's going to go? Same thing with the Astros. Altuve and those guys are not getting any younger, not necessarily getting any better. Guys like Alex Bregman as well. Justin Verlander is the oldest player in the MLB. Jose Abreu's contract was a disaster. Josh Hader, guys like that were good gets, but I think we've seen the best of this Astros era. I think we're on about hole 14, 15, getting near the end of the Astros as we've known in the past couple of years. Yes, they cheated, but they have won 2 World Series. You can't question 2022. They were the best team. It's easily the best era in Astros history, without question, no matter how it continues. But credit to the Blue Jays. They did a really good job. Like I said, I think the sellers won this deadline more than the buyers did. If I had to make a World Series pick, I'm honestly sticking with what I said at the beginning of the year. I said on my other show, Unsportsmanlike Content, that it was going to be the Phillies and the Orioles being in the World Series. Right now, both of those teams are sitting pretty. They didn't do a lot at the deadline. The Orioles did get Eloy Jimenez. The Phillies got a pitcher from the Angels, but not a lot beyond that. But they're 2 of the best teams in baseball. They didn't really need to do much. They weren't going to pay too many exorbitant prices. And I still think we're going to see at least one of those 2 in the Fall Classic come late October. Coming up after the break, we are going to take a look at some NASCAR awards. Back here on the Harry Loomis Show, and this week on NASCAR's, at least Instagram, I didn't see it anywhere else, they did mid-season superlatives. So we're going to take a look at these, and I'm going to see if I agree with them or disagree with them. And I'm also going to give these awards out to the Xfinity and Truck Series. The Instagram post didn't do that. You can only put so much on an Instagram post. So we're going to spread the love to all 3 series right now. Starting off, the biggest breakout for the Cup Series, the account says Ty Gibbs, and I understand why they picked Ty Gibbs. He's had a couple really strong runs this year. He's That a threat to win his first career race, 349 laps led, 2 poles, 5 top 5s, 9 top 10s. But I am going to pick a guy that some would say has already broken out, but I think the way he's running is far more impressive than he has been in his career. How about Tyler Reddick? 22 races, only 1 win. He's had a 3-win season before. 9 top 5s, 15 top 10s, 449 laps led, and 11.3 average finish. A big issue for Reddick in his career so far has been consistency, just getting the finishes that he deserves, and he's doing that this year. He is 15 points away from the regular season points lead. He's been so close to so many wins this year. Reddick is showing a version of himself that we have not seen since the Xfinity Series in 2019. That's my pick for the biggest breakout, just the consistency of 23XI and Tyler Reddick. In the Xfinity Series, this one's pretty easy for me. It's Shane Van Gisbergen. Yes, he's 13th in points, only 5 top 5s on the year, but no one knew how he was going to perform this year, and he has won 3 races, all on road courses / street courses. If you consider Chicago different, in my mind, you turn right in NASCAR, it's a road course. But Van Gisbergen, like I said, 3 wins on the year, leads the Xfinity Series. There's a lot of drivers with 2. He is the only one with 3. He is putting himself in the conversation to be in the Cup Series next year. Honorable mention to Jesse Love, too. 5 top 5s, 9 top 10s for Love in his rookie season is also very, very impressive. For the Truck Series, I'm going to go with Nick Sanchez. Sanchez made the playoffs last year, didn't win a race, but was a threat, especially towards the end of the year. Everyone remembers him getting in the fight with Matt Crafton as well. Started off the year with a bang, winning at Daytona. Also got a win at Charlotte. He's got 7 top 5s, 10 top 10s, and 8.0 average finish on the year, which is very good through 15 races. And, the series is dominated by Christian Eckes and Corey Heim, but Sanchez is getting himself in the conversation more and more as the year progresses. And I would not be surprised at all to see him racing for a championship when the series gets to Phoenix. So those are my breakout drivers. The next award is the most pleasant surprise. Now, NASCAR said Alex Bowman for his solid season and his win at Chicago. And I don't know if I have another one. If I had to pick one, maybe it would be Austin Cindric's win in St. Louis. He's been really struggling since the 2022 season, but St. Louis Worldwide Technology Raceway was probably the best race he's ever run in his career. He led over 50 laps, was up front all day, was the beneficiary of a tough break for Ryan Blaney running out of gas on the last lap, but Cindric was in position all race long, got that win, the second of his career. That's going to be my pick for the most pleasant surprise. For the Xfinity Series, I'm actually going to go with Riley Herbst's win at Indy. Not a lot of people really knew what to expect out of Herbst going into the season, but that Indy race was fantastic. We'll talk about that more later on. But Herbst drove the race of his career, getting the win on the last lap, passing teammate Cole Custer and former SHR teammate Eric Almirola. It was an awesome finish, and Herbst did everything in his power to earn that win. So definitely giving him that one. And for the Truck, in a way, you could go a couple different routes with this, but I'm actually going to go with Tyler Ankrum. A lot of people have written Tyler Ankrum off. He had a win in 2019, made the playoff in 2020 as well with GMS, but has just really struggled since then. But this year with BMR, they have really been impressing. He's got 5 top 5s, 7 top 10s. He's locked into the playoffs with a race to go, and he's been a threat to win a couple races. I wouldn't be surprised at all the way he's running to see Tyler Ankrum get to victory lane this year, which I didn't know what to expect when it came to BMR. That you think of BMR, that's Christian Eckes' team. He's doing everything for them this year, but Ankrum has really stepped it up this year, and even Daniel Dye is doing a good job this year. Really a lot of credit to BMR Racing this year in the Truck Series. Next award, the Comeback Driver of the Year. Now, the Cup Series, they said Chase Elliott, and I would agree on that one. Elliott, he's not lighting the world on fire, but he is the model of consistency. A 10.5 average finish is ludicrous in the next-gen era. Got the win at Texas, 7 top 5s, 11 top 10s. Could compete for the regular season championship. I won't say that this is too much of a surprise. When Chase Elliott's on, he is one of the best drivers in the sport, but he is right back where he belongs after a frustrating year in 2023. In the Xfinity Series, there's not really a clear-cut option. I actually think I'm not going to give an award to this one because some of the guys you expect. Cole Custer's up top, we expected that. Justin Allgaier, we expected that. Austin Hill, Chandler Smith, we expected that. You could go Riley Herbst because he's 5th in points with the win. I think if there is a driver that fits this quota, it's probably him. Comeback driver of the year and most pleasant surprise, they can kind of go hand in hand a little bit. So I guess I'll give the nod to Riley Herbst on this one. In the Truck Series, kind of the same thing. But if I was going to give it to anybody, I think, again, you have to repeat and give it to Grant Enfinger, to Tyler Ingram. He hasn't run this well since at least 2020. You can argue he's never run this well in his career, being 6th in points. But everything I said remains true with Ingram. I'll give him the award as well. As we move on, the best silly season pickup. This is a good one. Now, for the Cup Series, NASCAR said Noah Gragson. And looking at it, I would probably disagree, actually. I'm going to say that Josh Berry has been just a little bit better. Gragson leads in top 10s, but Josh Berry has a second top 5. His good runs, I feel like, have been a little bit more impressive than Gragson's have been. Gragson leads in average finish. Berry leads in laps led. You could honestly go with either the two. Carson Hocevar would be a really good pick as well, but I'll give the nod to Josh Berry. In the Xfinity Series, this one is going to go to Chandler Smith, back with TRD at Joe Gibbs Racing. He ran a couple years with Kyle Busch Motorsports in the Truck Series, left for colleague, back with JGR, and he's making a count. 2 wins, 7 top 5s, 11 top 10s. Definitely a championship threat. 3rd in the series in laps led. He's struggled the second half of the season, but when he's on, you got to look out for him. As for the Truck Series, I think you're going to give this one to Raja Carruth. You could go a couple ways with this one as well, but Carruth got off to a great start, winning the 3rd race of the year at Las Vegas. He is 5th in points, 3 top 5s, 8 top 10s, 2 poles. He's really continuing to improve as a driver, and I think Spire Motorsports and HendrickCars.com have to be very happy with the investment on one Raja Carruth. The next one is the Doing More with Less award. A driver that's not in the best equipment, but doing the best they can with it. Pretty self-explanatory. In the Cup Series, they say Carson Hocevar. I disagree. I think this award would probably go to Justin Haley. He's in a Rick Ware racing car, 29th in points. He's had 2 top 10s on the year, and he is continuing to literally do more with less. You see him in the top 15 and top 20, when in years past that car would be battling for top 25s and top 30s. A really, really great move for both Justin Haley and Rick Ware Racing. I think Haley's stock is just continuing to rise. He's probably not going to get an upgraded ride in 2024 or in 2025, but keep an eye on him in 2026 if he keeps this up. In the Xfinity Series, I'm going to give it to Ryan Sieg. Sieg almost finally got that win at Texas. Got beat by 0.02 of a second by Sam Mayer, but he's got 4 top 10s on the year, 15.2 average finish. He's 10th in regular season points and would be 12th in the Xfinity Series playoffs, barely ahead of Sammy Smith for that final spot. But it's good to see Sieg continuing to run well with his family-owned team. He is the one driver in NASCAR I want to see get a win the most. He has been working at this for over a decade now with his family, and I can't imagine the celebration if he gets it done. Give credit to Parker Kligerman as well with Big Machine Racing. He is 9th in points, 43 points ahead of Sieg, but Kligerman had a great year last year as well, so Sieg does get my nod here. Not really a great option, or a lot of great options in the Truck Series, but I'm going to give it to Grant Enfinger. He lost his ride with GMS Racing, obviously, when they shut down at the end of the year. He's driving for Cody Rohrbaugh, the CR9 team in the Truck Series, and he's driven for them before. He had to run some races with them in 2021 since he wasn't running full-time with ThorSport, and he's doing a good job. He's in the playoffs, 4 top 5s, 7 top 10s. Obviously a far cry from what he did last year when he's probably the second best driver in the series, but continuing to do a great job in the Truck Series. Grant Enfinger is one of the good guys in the sport, and he is making it count in the Truck Series. Moving on, Team of the Year in the Cup Series, they got it right. It's Hendrick Motorsports. What more can you say? All four of their drivers have been to victory lane this year. 9 wins on the year. Larson with 4, Byron with 3, Elliott and Bowman with 1 apiece. And all 4 of them are going to be contenders going into the playoffs. Nothing more to discuss here. In the Xfinity Series, you could go 2 different routes. You could argue Richard Childress Racing, but I'm actually going to give the award to Stewart Haas Racing because Cole Custer is leading the points and Riley Herbst is 5th. Have wins this year. Both are continuing to run well. And you might see both of them in the Cup Series. We know we'll see Cole Custer in the 41. Herbst is still being mentioned, possibly going to 2311 as well. For the Truck Series, I think it comes down to 2 teams. I think it comes down to BMR and Tricon Garage. Both, the 2 best drivers in the series come from those teams. I'm going to lean towards BMR because Christian Eckes is leading the point standings. Tyler Ankrum 6th in points. Daniel Dye is right there on the cutoff, 5 points behind Tanner Gray for the final spot. Give credit to Tricon though. Corey Heim 2nd with 5 wins. Taylor Gray is 8th in points. Tanner Gray is 10th. Neither of them have made the playoffs before, so if they can hold on, that would be huge for their careers. Dean Thompson is running 15th in the point standing as well. The next award, the final award on this post is the Driver of the Year. In the Cup Series, NASCAR said it is Kyle Larson. And after 11 races, I would have said William Byron. But at this point, I think it is definitely Kyle Larson. Missed a race and is still leading the point standings by 10 over Elliott. Leads the series in playoff points, 4 wins, 9 top 5s, 11 top 10s, 762 laps led as well. Only Denny Hamlin has more. Pretty obvious who the best driver in the Cup Series is right now. Larson's having his best year since 2021 when he won 10 races in the championship. Over in the Xfinity Series, it's pretty obviously Cole Custer as well. Only 1 win, 9 top 5s, 16 top 10s. Really taking it to the series this year. He's got an 8.4 average finish. The next best is Austin Hill's 10.5, 56-point lead over Justin Allgaier in the regular season standings. I look for him to try to continue to accrue playoff points before the playoffs start, and we know what he did in the playoffs last year. In the Truck Series, you could honestly, I think Christian Eckes and Corey Heim have to split this award. Heim's got 5 wins this year. Eckes has 3, a 6.2 average finish, and he has led laps in every race this year. I don't know how you could diminish one of them by saying one's been better than the other. They're both going to cruise to Phoenix and have a chance at a championship. Now, one award that NASCAR didn't do that I'm going to do is the Race of the Year each series, because each of these series has had gems of races so far this year. In the Cup Series, I think you got to be the Advent Health 400 at Kansas Speedway. I'm biased because I was at that race, but the closest finish in Cup Series history, and it was an incredible race up until that point. Definitely isn't just a great finish. It's a great race as a whole. I don't know how you can argue that wasn't the race of the year. Bristol was great. Atlanta was incredible. Kansas was an all-timer. And I never thought I'd say that about a race at Kansas Speedway either. In the Xfinity Series, you could argue Chicago. That was a great race with Shane Van Gisbergen and Kyle Larson. But I think it's Indianapolis with Riley Herbst. That was the best 2 laps that Indy has ever put on in NASCAR. And it was a great race up until that point, like Kansas was. There was comers and goers. There was great battles. It's the first time they had this regular package at Indianapolis, and I think it was a hit. I loved everything about that race. And lastly, for the Truck Series, this one's a little bit more difficult. There's not a clear-cut pick. I'm actually going to go with Las Vegas. Las Vegas felt like a really positive race. There were a couple of different drivers that were up front throughout the race. Ty Majeski led a lot of laps. Corey Heim led a lot of laps. Kyle Busch led 13 laps. But it was awesome to see Rajah Caruth get his first career win with Spire Motorsports. It felt like a big deal watching it. And looking back, I think that's been the best race of the season for the camping world for the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series. So those are my picks for some NASCAR superlatives so far in the 2024 season. Up next, we're going to talk about some NHL. There are a couple teams in the league that don't have captains going into the 2024-25 season. So I'm going to make my pick. Back with the third part of the Harry Loomis show this week, and we're going to talk about the NHL. Obviously, we're still in the off season, it's the point of the offseason where there's really not a lot going on. We're past free agency. We're too early for training camp and preseason and everything like that. So we're going to have some fun. There are currently 6 teams that do not have captains in the NHL. They are the Anaheim Ducks, the Utah Hockey Club, the Chicago Blackhawks, the Seattle Kraken, the Tampa Bay Lightning, and the Buffalo Sabres. So what we are going to do is we are going to name a captain for each of those teams. Pretty straightforward. You know, you can have your own perception of what goes into making a good captain. I'm just going to look at who I think should represent the team and wear the C on the jersey. With the Anaheim Ducks, they have a couple different options. You know, obviously this team is not going to be good next year. Their window hasn't opened up yet. They have a couple interesting prospects, but this team is just not ready to take that next step and compete for a playoff spot. But they do have some good young players. Mason McTavish, Trevor Zegras, Troy Terry, Frank Vetrano is still there. But I think my captain would be Cam Fowler. Cam Fowler has been with the Ducks franchise since he got drafted 12th overall in 2010, has been with the team since 2013-14. He's honestly younger than I thought he was. He signed an 8-year deal after the 2016-17 season that expires at the end of the 25-26 season. But he has always been a reliable member of the Ducks blue line. I think he has earned that right in the organization to be the next captain. I don't know if the Ducks have had a captain since Ryan Getzlaf retired, but Cam Fowler would definitely be my pick. Next up, we're going in alphabetical order if you can't tell. Next up, we have the Buffalo Sabres, and they're a team that could be taking that next step this year. Everyone thought they were taking that next step last year and possibly ending that playoff drought. It just didn't work out for them. Could this year be any different? We will see. But they also have a couple of good options. I think Alex Tuch would make a really good captain. He plays the style of hockey that you would expect a captain to play. He's a goal scorer. He's physical. He looks out for his teammates. He seems like a guy that everyone likes on the team. But I think the next captain of the Sabres is pretty easily going to be Rasmus Dahlin, the defenseman. He is an absolute superstar. He's a top 5 to 10 defenseman in the NHL. He's making $11 million a year for the Sabres, their first overall pick in 2018. He is the face of the franchise, and I don't think it'll be too long until he gets the C on his jersey. Next up, we have the Chicago Blackhawks, and this is an interesting one because, you know, looking at the team, they're kind of similar to the Ducks where they're not expected to do much in the next year or two. They were near the cap floor, so they brought in a couple names like Tyler Bertuzzi to not only get to the cap floor, but also be more competitive than they were last year. They didn't even hit 60 points last year. Wasn't a good year by any means. It's pretty obvious the next captain is going to be Connor Bedard. It's a matter of do they give it to him now or later. In my mind, why wait? I think if he's your captain, he's your captain. If I have this young prodigy and I want him to be my captain, I want him to learn the role as soon as possible. I would give it to him this year. I think he's ready to be the captain. There's Nick Foligno would be a decent option as well, but he would so clearly be a stopgap. I think if you're going to make Bedard the captain, just make him the captain now and get ready for the year. Next up, we have the Seattle Kraken, and the Kraken have had a captain already. The Golden Knights did not name a captain their first year. The Kraken did. It was Mark Giordano. He only lasted half a season. I'm watching a Cardinals game. Giordano only lasted half of a season with the Kraken before getting traded to Toronto, so they haven't had one since then. And the Kraken also have a couple interesting options. Matty Beniers would be a good one. Jordan Eberle would be interesting as well. Jared McCann is one of their best players. I think he could be a good captain. I'm actually going to go with Vince Dunn, however. Dunn got signed to a big contract. He's making over $7.5 million for the next couple of years. And he's another guy that plays a style that you would expect a captain to play. He's pretty reliable on the blue line. He contributes offensively. He is physical. He's not a big guy, but he plays a physical game. He's really fun to watch. When he was on in St. Louis, he was one of the most fun players to watch in my opinion, on that cup winning team, especially in 2019, 2020. He was really good coming to his own. I remember him getting in a fight with Jacob Trouba. I remember him beating up, I think it was Drake Caggiula on the Blackhawks, and he had a really cool celebration, like fired up afterwards. But Dunn seems like captain material for the Kraken. He seems like one of the faces of that franchise, especially that blue line. Yes, they got Brandon Montour. Yes, they have guys like Adam Larson and Jamie Oleksiak. But my pick would be for Vince Dunn to take the C. The Tampa Bay Lightning are up next. Obviously, they just lost Steven Stamkos. This is probably the easiest one on the list. Victor Hedman. Victor Hedman is one of the best defensemen of this generation. He is one of the best players in Lightning history, let alone defenseman. He's easily got that title. He would have been the captain of a lot of different teams long before this year, but Steven Stamkos was there, and obviously he was a very good captain for the Lightning, captained them to 2 Stanley Cups and another finals appearance. I don't remember if he was the captain in 2015 or not, but he was on that team that made the final regardless. Stamkos earned it. Now Hedman's earned it. I think he's going to be the captain, and I wouldn't be surprised if they announce that one pretty soon, which leaves us with one team left, the Utah Hockey Club, formerly the Arizona Coyotes. And they're one of the most interesting teams in the NHL. I don't know if they really have a clear-cut captain, but if I was going to make a pick, I think it would probably be Clayton Keller. Clayton Keller is one of the premier players coming from Arizona to Utah. Obviously, one of the big fish they got was Mikhail Sergachev on the blue line. I could see him being a captain one day as well. But Keller, they gave him the bag. He's one of the best players on the team. And I think if they want to establish themselves in Utah, they want to have a well-known name really leading that team as a captain. My pick would be Clayton Keller. So those are my picks. Let me know what you guys think. That's going to do it for the Harry Loomis Show this week. Next week will be the end of the Olympic break for NASCAR. So we'll have a race to preview at Richmond, and we'll talk about what else is going on in the world of sports. So that's going to do it. Thank you for watching the Harry Loomis Show. This is the Harry Loomis Show.